Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be using Python and we'll be learning how to use Python to input data into an Excel worksheet. I'll give you a look at the project. We're going to have a GUI application with inputs where we can input the data. So this is our little data entry form. We fill out the fields and we press submit, and it'll input it into the worksheet like this for us. So it'll create an ID, and column B, C and D are input on the form, and Python will put in a timestamp then of when it was entered. So let's get started then today. Okay, so close this workbook, close the application. Okay, so we'll get started. We'll add a main.py file. Okay, so we're going to be using some Python packages. We're going to be using the OpenPyXL, and for the GUI application we're going to be using PySimpleGUI. So we're going to install them first. So we say pip install and then pip install PySimpleGUI. Okay, so in the folder I'm just going to create our Excel sheet. Just going to create a blank workbook. I'm going to save it into that folder. Okay, so I'm going to save that file now. So that's our Excel sheet set up. Okay, we'll go back to Python now. Okay, so we're going to bring in our OpenPy and our import the PySimpleGUI. So we're going to say from open. Now we're going to import load workbook. Then we're going to import PySimpleGUI as SG, and then we're going to bring in the datetime package as well. So we'll just start on our GUI form then. So we brought it in as SG, so we say sg.theme. We'll give it a darker theme, so dark amber. Then we'll set the layout. So in our layout then we want, so first of all we open an array, and then for each row inside then we have another array. So we say SG, we want to put in text first, and we want to put a placeholder of text as first name. This will be the label, and then we want to push it. We want all the input fields to be the same size, so we're going to push them to the end. So we're going to say SG push, and then we're going to push in our input sg.input, and we're going to set a key, and the key is very important because that's how we'll be able to control our form after. I'll show you this shortly now. And the key is going to be first name. Okay, so on the next row then we're going to push in sg.text last name, and we're going to give it a key of input text. We want to put in the push as well. So then for the telephone number, and then we want the two buttons. So we're going to say sg-button and submit, and then we're going to have another button, sg-button cancel. So that's our layout set up. So to load our GUI form then, so we're going to set a window variable. So window is equal to s. So the window is going to be equal to sg.window. And we're going to give it a title of data entry. And we're going to add the layout to it. And then we're going to center all the elements. So we're going to say element justification. We're going to set that to center. So then we're just going to set up while true. This will keep our GUI application open. We're going to need events and values from the GUI application. So we'll say events and values are equal to the window.read. And then if we want to close our GUI form, we're going to say if the event is equal to sg-win underscore close, all in capital letters, and then or the event is equal to close. And where the close is coming from is here. It will be the button name, so we'll say close here. So if either of them true, we want to break, and that will close everything. So at the very end then we want to do a window.close. Now I'm just going to run this script down in the terminal. Python main.py, and we'll see is everything working for our farm. I have a typo here. This should be a capital W. Save that. Let's try this again. Okay, so now you can see here's our GUI application with the title data entry, our first name, last name, and our telephone number. And we have a submit button and our close button. So let's close that for a minute and continue. So I'll just go through the layout. See the layout in the first section of the array. We have the text first name, and then by SG push we're making all the input boxes the same width. We're pushing them to the very end, and we're giving the input box a key of first name, and then the next line, so on. We have the last name, then we have our telephone number and our input for the number, and we have our two buttons, and then we're centering the data inside the layout. So we'll just close that now, So now we need to use OpenPY to add the data to our file. So we're going to come in here and we're going to listen for an event if the event is equal to submit. So when we press the submit button, we're going to use a try. And what we want to do is we're going to set a variable WB equals load workbook. And the workbook we want to load is the book one that we have saved in our file, or you can name it anything you want. So it's book1.xlsx. Then we're going to define a sheet variable, and the sheet is going to be equal to the workbook, and we're going to set it to sheet 1. And to work out the ID for each entry, we're going to see how many rows are in the sheet at the current time, and we're going to add 1 to it. So that'll be our next ID. So we're going to say the ID is going to be equal to the length of sheet 1, or the length of the sheet variable, and then we're going to grab the ID column. So that's going to tell us how many entries are in that, and then we're just going to say add 1. So that's going to be our next ID, and we're going to need a timestamp then for when the user put it in. So we're going to use the date time. So we're going to set a variable timestamp, and we're going to set that equal to date time now, and we're going to use a string from time, and that's going to be %d /%m %d %m, then %Y, and then %h for hours, %m for minutes, and %s for seconds. Okay, so I'm just going to we're going to set a list then, and the list is going to be equal to, first of all, we're going to put in the ID, and then we're going to import the values. The values are returned from the window. See, we have event and values are equal to the window.read. So the first item in our list is going to be the ID, which we've created by getting the length of the column and adding 1. And then we're going to add values first name, values last name, values number, and then we're going to input the timestamp. So when we have that done, then we want to add it to our sheet. So we're going to say sheet append, and then we're going to append the data. Then we're going to save the workbook. Once we save the workbook, we want to clear the values that are in the form, the GUI form. So we're just going to reset them. Window first name. We're going to update it. I'm going to set the value equal to nothing. I'm going to do the same for the last name. I'm going to do the same for the number. And then I want to return the focus to the entering in the first name. So I'm going to say window first name, and we're going to set a focus this time. That should be underscore. Okay, so window first name, that's set focus. And then when that was all successful, we want to just show a pop-up. So sg.pop pop-up, and we're going to say data saved, and we'll give it a title of success. Okay, then we need an except. If the workbook didn't load correctly, one reason why you mightn't load the workbook, if another user was in the file at the time. So we're going to say except and we're going to use an except on a permission error. So that's the error that'll throw if the workbook doesn't load properly. So if we don't have permission in the workbook, we're going to say sg popup. We're going to change this. We're going to say file in use, and we're going to put in a message here of file is being used by another user. Please try again later. Okay, that's pretty much it then. So we'll just go through the code again and make sure we have no errors. So we're setting our layout for our GUI form, then we're initializing the GUI form, and then we're saying while true. We're bringing in the events and the values from the GUI form by using window.read, and then if an event is fired off SG window closed, that's clicking the little X button, or the event equals close, and the close is coming from the text in the SG button, the close button. We're going to break and close. So if the event is equal to submit, if we press the submit button, we're going to load the workbook, we're going to set our sheet variable, we're going to get our ID, get our timestamp, then we're going to set a data list, then we're going to append that list to the sheet, we're going to save the workbook and reset our GUI application, our GUI form. So we'll try that now and see how it goes. Hopefully all is well. So I'm going to run that. Okay, so I'll just put in our a random number. We'll press submit. We have an error, no such file, book 1. Oh, we have book. We need to set it to book 1, where I declare open book 1. We'll save that. Okay, let's just try that again now. Okay, so just put in a random number, press submit. Input object is no attribute, set focus. Okay, that's another typo on my side again. Sorry, there should be a small f. So we'll save that now. Also, this to book 1. Okay, we'll save that now. We'll run our script again. Okay, so put in our name. Press submit. Success, data saved. Let's open that workbook. Book 1. And now you can see ID is 2, Tommy 100, and then the date and the time our thing was entered. So we'll run it now with the workbook open, and we'll see the error being caught. With the workbook open, if we just do the same, we just type in anything at all here. Press submit. File in use. File is being used by another user. Please try again later. Okay, so that's just a simple script on how to use Python with a little GUI user form to add data to an Excel file. I hope you've learned something from this video, and if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notifications to see more videos like these when they're posted. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next.